But in the meantime, let's start with Jim Schwartz and his coaching style. Brad, you haven't had a chance yet to weigh in on that. I know originally we were all kind of wishing that it would have gone the other way. Brian Flores he seemed to be our consensus first pick, but right behind him at a very close 1A was Jim Schwartz. What do you say about the Schwartz hiring?
My thoughts were I think it was an appropriate and great hire. I think that I didn't think that the options that the Browns had, I didn't think that the way they ended up with Schwartz was probably the best of all options, because otherwise they would have had to wait for a period of time here, and the Browns are not in a position to wait for anything, right? We needed a culture change. You know, Joe Woods it was not working here for Joe Woods, right? As nice as a guy he probably was, it just was not to be. We had to clean house, and it was time to clean house. My question now is, when you bring in a new philosophy with Jim Schwartz and the no-nonsense guy come to the table, you know, now you got to correct the culture in the clubhouse, right? Everybody got to be on the same, singing from the same hymnal.
Yeah, before you even start thinking about the actual X's and O's on the defense.
We got to clear that up. We got to sing from the same hymnal. Everybody's got to be talking about the same thing. Now,
do you think he's the guy to do that?
Well, I think from what I can see and what I read, I think his personality is fitting for that. Now, do I think that everybody's going to buy into the package? Absolutely not, right? And there's a remedy to that. Let me show you the door. That's the remedy.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're the highest priced dude.
So if it's Myles Garrett that doesn't buy in,
let me tell you something.
you got to go.
I'm going to get a king's ransom back for you. Yes, I will. Because that's how the big boys play it. Yeah. Like, we all going to come from the same place at the same time. The bus leaving at one time, we all going to be on it. Now, if you don't want to be on the bus, tell me now, and I will make arrangements.
That takes us to our first question. Bull, how will Myles take to Schwartz's coaching style, which was probably, if we're going to compare it to anybody that he's played under so far, it would be Greg Williams.
Yeah, I've heard this comparison. I know Earl was concerned about that. I maybe their styles are similar, but I ultimately think Greg Williams and Jim Schwartz are very different people. Yes.
And that Williams was more of a hard ass?
Yeah, I mean, Williams is like a borderline lunatic. You know, which as a borderline lunatic myself, I don't have a problem with that. But, like, Schwartz is not, like, he's a tough guy, but he doesn't have the same reputation that Greg Williams has.
He's fair tough as far as
I absolutely. And somebody that I was talking to that covers the Browns was saying to me that part of the reason Jim Schwartz got hired is because they over Brian Flores in the end. One, that Brian Flores had some head coaching opportunities, so they couldn't seal a deal with him.
Can't wait.
Right.
But also that they think ultimately Myles Garrett fits best in what Jim Schwartz wants to do, in his style. And so and he's their best player, so they wanted to have a defense that fits his style. So I think Jim Schwartz has shown you consistently in his career that he gets the best out of defensive linemen. It's been a consistent theme in his coaching career. Yeah. So I as all those great players he's had, I would argue that Myles Garrett's better than all of them.
Can I say this? And I was just thinking about when you talk about Schwartz and fitting Myles Garrett's style. What sometimes a coach has to do is challenge players from this standpoint. Not challenge them to produce on the field, but challenge in other ways. I'm going to challenge Myles Garrett. I'm going to need you to be the leader here. Something that you haven't done.
We talked about that yesterday.
I said something that you haven't done.
2 days ago.
Something that you haven't done, right? And sometimes you have to dig into people's soul. And they have to go soul searching like, what do you mean? I am a leader. No, you're not. I'm going to need you to take
Not the leader I need you to be.
I need you to be.
You know Ted Ginn Sr., right? Mm-hmm. We had him in Wednesday. And one of the questions we asked him, and I was fascinated by the answer, was, can you make your best player, who it may not be in his DNA to be a vocal leader, can you make that guy a leader? And he said, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was interesting because Kevin Stefanski was on with Ken, Carmen, and Anthony Lyman this morning on The Fan. Unlike them, we will give credit to other entities. And it was actually an interesting interview. He gave a couple of both guys asked some good questions, and he actually gave some answers. He gave a very interesting answer when he was asked about this, about leadership. Mm-hmm. And he admitted, he didn't even say it was a bad thing, but he was like, we have leaders on the team. He's like, everybody wants that one guy that's going to rah-rah and scream and yell and get the whole team. He said, not every team has that. Those players are very special. And he didn't say specifically we don't, but I thought the way he answered it made it seem like he doesn't. He brought up Nick Chubb as an example. He goes, hey, Nick speaks when he needs to, but basically he leads by example.
Right.
Now, I
think it's pretty clear they don't have
No,
that.
they don't.
I mean, if I'm going to central cast, Ray Lewis is that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy.
So they're on the scale. So, okay, if you have a Ray Lewis who would be a 10 in terms of guys taking a hill with a player and rah-rah, the epitome for me was Ray Lewis. On that scale, you'd have to go down to like maybe a 3 before you find one of those guys on the Browns. And maybe it is Chubb and maybe it is Garrett, but I mean, if we're not seeing it, the sideline cameras aren't capturing it, it's not happening a lot.
I would say that the rah-rah like Ray Lewis, that's a rare type, right?
That is
that's why I said
that level is rare.
He's the bar.
Because you sit out, even when Deion was playing, I don't think you would say Deion was a leader on the team. Deion was a
not like
special
Ray
talent.
Lewis. No.
But, let's take a guy like Drew Brees.
But let me say this.
Yes.
On that spectrum way on the right
You're
end.
looking for this. You're looking for a general. The general is not always the rah-rah. The general is the person that can get to Bull and say, hey, Bull, come on now. I'm going to need to get something better out of it.
That's right.
And I respect you enough to
Maybe
okay.
like Sheldon Richardson
Right.
was when he was here. He wasn't the best player, but he kind of was the traffic cop on the team. He kept guys in line. He was the guy that pulled Baker aside and said, Bake, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
You don't talk about, one of ours
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, Jay. I think ultimately, in the Ravens' case, they were a team built on defense, and so Ray Lewis led, right? And I agree with you, Brad. It's a unique situation at that level. For most teams, you want that guy to be your quarterback. And
I think it's better if he is. Or your best player.
Yeah.
Right.
Like in the Ravens' case, it wouldn't have done any good if Trent Dilfer came running out of the tunnel, lifting dirt,
He
dancing.
wasn't firing anybody up.
But when Ray did it, who was clearly not just the best player on that team, but one of the all-time greats, it just electrified everybody.
But I hope that Deshaun Watson can be that guy next year. Now,
It'd be nice.
I think he had that kind of personality when he was in Houston.
Yeah, so do I.
Really? Because I never saw that. I never saw like.
I always thought
I think people responded to him.
Yes,
I think everywhere
was
he's
he
been.
a fiery leader? I don't remember that.
I mean, again, if anybody compared to Ray Lewis is not going to seem like a fiery leader. But
okay, Drew
it is
Brees.
I think he was like that, like Drew Brees.
Okay,
I looked at him that way.
I don't remember it.
But he hasn't been that way here. Obviously, he played crappy football from the most part for the 6 games he was here. And the one aspect of Deshaun Watson that I kind of ignored when they traded for him is like the mental aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, he did it to himself, at least some of this, right?
He was there.
Right. And so he's got to find a way. We always laugh when they're like, guys got to go for counseling or whatever. I mean, Deshaun Watson clearly is a guy, no matter what he did and didn't do, that needs counseling.
Yes.
Because he's got mental hurdles to overcome. No matter what percentage of what happened he's to blame for, there's at least a percentage. And whatever percentage it is, he needs to find a way over that because he needs to get that guy back. He needs to have that. Unless he gets that cockiness, that edge that quarterbacks have to have that are good, he's never going to be that player.
I want to clarify something just to make sure that what you said wasn't misunderstood.
Yeah.
You're not saying he needs counseling for everything that happened before he got to Cleveland. Whatever that was, and he and the women know.
Yes.
Whatever that was, there probably is a degree that needs cleaned up. But I think the bulk of the work that Deshaun needs to do with a sports psychologist is exactly what you said. How do I get back to having the swagger that number 4 had in Houston?
That's right.
How do I deal with the awful things I'm going to hear for the rest of my career?
Right.
How do I deal with the media? How do I handle this stuff? Because, Bull, I honestly believe this, and we're going to talk about this later in the show. My biggest concern right now with Deshaun Watson is that he never returns to the guy he was because of what happened to him.
Well, and that's it. Because physically, there should be no reason why he couldn't.
No reason whatsoever.
It's the mental. If he doesn't get back to that guy, it's going to be because he couldn't get back to that mindset. I'm the freaking man.
We talked about
absolutely.
it weeks ago when I was on the show. I said there's a fine line between the good and the great.
Yeah.
And it's your edge. All the greats have an edge to them, right?
How they carry themselves.
And so I said, I think our issue was we didn't take that into consideration when we were talking about him coming back.
Because we were blinded by the talent.
Right.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think even Bull would admit that. I think everybody would admit that.
You got to now.
I ignored that.
The Browns and Deshaun Watson now have to mirror that together here and be like, hey, hold on now.
Right.
We're going to need, it's like a wrecked car here. We need some body work here, right?
Yeah, right.
But we've got to see what's inside the body. Did some of that stuff inside get damaged?
Yeah, did the frame get cracked?
Because you got to put that back together. Because without an edge, I don't care if it's Deshaun Watson, any other great player, without that edge, it takes a lot away from that player.
Ultimately, back to the starting point,
Yeah.
which was Schwartz and Myles Garrett. No one here thinks that Myles is going to have a problem being coached harder than he was before, because I don't think it's going to be the extent that Greg Williams.
I think they were
coached.
begging for it.
But I am concerned about one guy, and before I tell you the name of the guy I'm concerned about, I'll ask you guys, do you have a player that you're concerned about in terms of how he's going to match up with Schwartz's style?
I mean, I guess JOK would be the guy.
Okay.
I mean, just because he's such a different player. I mean, he's like a typical, like you have to find a way.
You have to find a position for him.
Right. I don't even know
How you use him.
Right. I'm not sure. So that's the guy, I mean, Jim Schwartz defense is all about getting pressure with the front four and having a strong, and to do that, and to have Myles Garrett out wider in this wide nine, right? You have to be stout in the middle. We know they need to add defensive tackles.
Right.
I'm not worried about the guys that are here. They're all young. They're moldable, right? I'm not worried about the guys in the secondary really, because I think they're talented there. I think that was the biggest disappointment of this season, besides Deshaun Watson in the last 6 games, was the play of the secondary overall. It improved as the season went along, but I expected the secondary to be great the whole season, and they were far from it.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
So I think JOK and unlocking his skill set is the thing I'm most concerned about.
Do you have a player that you're concerned about?
No, I probably would agree with JOK, and not from the standpoint of him being able to do the deal, but you have to find a place where he can succeed from, right? I don't think the position the Browns had him in, the slot they had him in, was the most advantageous to his ability.
Yeah.
The thing I'm looking for
We're going to talk to DePaul about that in
Schwartz
5
is
minutes.
this. You're empowering the rest to be the best that they can be. Delpit, Johnson, Miles, Taki, Emerson, Ward, Newsome, right? We think we have good players, okay? Put them in a position to succeed.
Yeah, find what they do
Stop
best
talking about what they can't do.
Right.
What do you do well?
Right.
And let me put you in a position to do that.
I have a concern. It's not a major concern, but it's just I don't even know how to properly say this, because it's going to sound like, that I'm overstating this. The one guy that I am a little concerned about, though, is Denzel Ward, and that's because Denzel was probably the most vocal supporter of Joe Woods. I mean, he had come out during the season and said, guys, he's not the problem. Okay? He's not the problem. So I start wondering, okay, who is going to be most upset about his absence?
Yeah,
And
maybe.
it seemed like Ward was his biggest ally. I don't
That's
know.
fair.
Maybe that was just a public face he was putting on to show you.
He probably liked Joe
He
Ward.
probably did.
Probably like Joe Ward.
But that doesn't mean he's going to dislike Schwartz.
not at
it's
all.
not Schwartz's fault that Joe Woods got fired.
Right.
And ultimately, I think Denzel Ward is going to love the fact that Jim Schwartz plays a lot more man defense than Joe Woods
Well, it
did.
spotlights his talents.
Absolutely.
A lot more.
let me-
And to your point, so take your 11 guys, whoever they end up being, and we know who probably 8 or 9 of them are.
Sure.
When you look at these guys, what are their strengths? And just build a defense that plays to each one of their strengths. Now, the hard thing is it's like solving a Rubik's Cube. You might get one side, but you got to get all 6 at the same time. So the hard part, and I believe Schwartz is the guy for this, is finding that defense where all the sides match up at the same time. So you're putting Myles Garrett in his strength. If that's wide 9, it's wide 9.
Yeah.
Okay, so if Denzel is man, you got to play him in man.
Yeah.
So you got to get all these pieces to line up together at the same time.
Which is not always easy,
It's
of
not,
course.
and that may take time. That may take 4, 5, 6 games. I think it's very important for everyone to understand. Don't judge this offense or this defense in week 6.
I'm gonna say this.
It's going to take time.
I'm gonna say this to you though. Sometimes it's not just that. It's this. I gotta challenge you to be the best that you can be. Right. You're supposed to be this big money grip player. Right. You're going to live up to that.
Yeah, show me.
I'm going to put you out here, right?
Yeah.
And most people are going to respond to that. Denzel Ward is a Buckeye, right? All we do is win. That's all we know, right? And we are challenged at all points, at all times. What you have to do is you have to respond, right? So now we're going to make you respond, right? I'm not going to hide you here. You got Tyreek Hill as you on the island.
Yeah.
I hope good luck to you, right? Because most people are going to try to rise up here and be like, I'm not the one.
Yeah.
I'm not the weak link here. I'm not the one.
Yeah.
And I think that all the players that you talk about, Delpit, right? So when Delpit was at LSU, I love Delpit down at LSU,
He
right?
finally showed, I thought he
At the end of
finally
the year,
showed some improvement at the end of
so
the
I
year.
said, okay, let's go. I'm gonna give you some authority
Yeah.
and complexity.
Empower
to say,
him to be great.
Come on now.
Yeah.
This what you want to be.
Last thing before we bring in DeQuell to follow up on your point, Jay, about, hey, don't judge his defense week one, new coordinator. Unlike this year, you're also going to have a lot of new starters. I mean,
Well, we have a lot. I think we probably will have 3 or 4 at the most.
that's a lot, though.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I
That's
mean,
almost half.
There's a chance you could have it's possible in a perfect world. They have 5 new starters in the front 7.
Yeah, you could have two new linebackers and
3 new defensive linemen.
3 new defensive linemen.
You got to have it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
well,
some of them might have been here last year,
but they
possibly.
weren't.
Weren't
I don't
starters.
think that they're here.
No,
I think you'll be bringing some people in
you
here.
need at least 3 starters that are not on
Because the one thing we
from
can,
the defensive
the one,
line, on the defensive
one
line
thing,
almost by
Yes.
itself.
The one thing we cannot do is be run on again like we were run on this
No,
year. We cannot.
those days are gone.
That gotta
By
be
the way,
stopped.
you mentioned Denzel Ward. I would love to, in the offseason, McNuggets, I hope they would comply with this request. I would love to reach out to the Browns to see if we could get Denzel Ward to come in for a show. I'd love to have him in studio for a full 2 hours.
Yeah, I think we go through Tyvis, not the Browns.
yeah.
Well, I know, but the Browns do have to be
Right.
You know, the Browns have to be in that mix. We respect that. We totally understand that. Teams want to know when their players are talking. They like to approve it.
Right.
And I would like to go through the proper channels. But you're right. Denzel could help. Or, I mean, Tyvis could help a lot. But I think it would be great not to grill them, not to put them under, this, interrogate,
Be clear.
interrogation.
Be clear. If we go into that, we need Denzel Ward at
We
his
do.
top
And
of
I
his
would
game.
love to have him sit here, if for no other reason, you touched on it. Talk about the culture, because he's seen both ends of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been at Ohio State where he lost more games in one season.
Right.
I think maybe
1
every
month of the
season of the last 3, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe every season of his career, he lost more games in each season than he did in total at Ohio State.
That's right.
Right.
Because one thing,
And I would love to have him talk about that
the
culture.
one thing Ohio State has is they have, whether you like them or not, they got culture.
They do have it.
And it passes on from year to year.
And when you walk in
And
that
when you
door
walk
at
in
the
that
Woody Hayes
door,
facility,
you assume that culture, or you're going to be run out of town here.
And culture goes both ways.
Yeah.
When you walk into that Woody Hayes facility, you understand there is an expectation for you, for every guy, not just the starters. Likewise, when you walk into a building in Berea, like the Browns, where winning has not been part of the culture, you automatically know this is an organization that has dealt with ineptitude
Right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
less than their best for the last 20 plus years.
And that's